appetite of that manager, whether he's interested on youth programs. So I want to appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The mic. Mayor divorce. Divorce.
Thank you, Deputy. I'm not going to explain the history of that divorce. It started with former President Thabo Mbeki. So when I told the story, the president of SALGA was so impressed that he decided to follow President Mbeki. My point is one, ESCOM. Yes, we have taken them on in a small, poor municipality in Bayers-Nodia when I was there. We are at a point where the facilitator is there and ESCO is playing cat and mouse. We are waiting for the facilitator to sit and finalize and conclude this matter, but ESCOM is continuously nowhere to be found. We want to really plead with SALGA to see if they can assist Bayers-Nodia municipality to bring ESCOM to that facilitation. So it's being concluded. For the rest of the members present who may not understand, that would set a precedent if we can resolve that matter. Because it is in this case where ESCOM is using your infrastructure to get to clients within your municipality, but they don't want to pay for that. That is the thing. And it will be the first municipality, if we succeed and we win this battle with ESCOM, it will set a precedent for all the other affected municipalities with the same challenge. I want us to pursue this matter in the Constitutional Court for the declaration. We must not return and we must press hard so that it is clear, because this one is creating racial tensions. You will find in a municipality that ESCOMs directly supply, the municipality implement its credit policy in its area, but it can't do it in the ESCOM supply area. And that is creating tensions amongst communities to a point where you can't collect what is due to you by using the blocking of electricity in the same municipality. So I would really want to encourage us to pursue that very seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to commend Lance and his team for the work they've been doing with regard to the salaries, both with the senior officials and also with bringing councillors up to scratch with regard to other members of the public representatives like parliamentarians and MPLs. So that's been a long time coming. Thank you for that. Then also for the work and the training you're doing for MPAC and the work around youth development, and I really want to adopt or propose that we adopt both of these reports, and if you can circulate them as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker. You can continue number 4.
Okay, thank you. Allow me also, Councillor Tumeleng from Northern Cape. Allow me also to second the Speaker here in front of adopting the reports. But just quickly, also to welcome the organizational report from the President and of course the APP. The commitment which was made probably last year at that conference when this NEC was elected was to look and say, what can you do as SALGA to become financially strong and even independent? Now, with not circulating the reports now, one does not get that picture. So can we please just have an outlook on that? So, because it has an impact quite on a number of things, and I don't need to go into that. And then, of course, secondly, the amount of work which is being done, both in SADC and all over, speaks to that very same thing. Now, it would be important when we can reach a stage where this SALGA becomes financially independent and it continues beyond the borders of this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ngwezi. And thank you very much for proposing a speaker for the adoption. Ngiyabonga. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Councillor Ngwezi, shall we get officials, CEO, to assist in terms of the roving mics? Thanks, you may.
Okay, thank you. Greetings, President, and all members of the NEC, delegates from different municipalities. In the report of the President spoke about the interventions that are sometimes not assisting municipalities, taking them backward instead of actually supporting. Now, my view is that SALGA becomes a spectator in the process of either recruitment or appointment of those who are supposed to go and support, whether it's your ministerial representatives or whoever in terms of Section 139, Section 154, or whatever process that is being followed. So I think that perhaps SALGA must lobby that at least we are part of, because some of these people...
NEC member, who is SALGA?
Us.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're proposing this to yourself?
To ourselves, that we must lobby other, either provincial governments or COGTA, that we be part, of actually seeing whether the process is fair or unfair. Because some of these people who are appointed are people who have failed in the municipalities they previously served.
Exactly.
So you can't expect any miracle when they go or being sent to those municipalities. So that's the first issue. The second issue is with regards to the funding model, Deputy President. The bigger percentage of the country's budget lies in the national government, about probably 50%, 40% in the province, 9% on local government. And the difficulty I'm observing is that the demand for municipalities to provide services is not decreasing. As we speak, people are being born today, settlement wherever is happening, we must provide bulk infrastructure, but almost every year we face budget cuts. So perhaps, we must continue. I'm not saying we have not been doing that, but probably with a much more stronger voice to say, the policy must change. We can't continue to receive 9%, when the demand is actually growing. That must be considered.
True.
The issue that, or rather the expectation that municipalities were going to actually collect revenue is not the case, because the economy of the country is not growing at a rate which we require, which allows people to pay for services. Almost, daily, people face retrenchments. They can't pay for services, they join the indigent registers. At the same time, there is no compensation from National Treasury that municipalities continue to carry the burden because people are now unemployed. So I'm actually, requesting that. And also the payment of salaries to, councillors and officials in municipalities. the formula is not the same.
Yeah.
I am, for instance, paid on level 5, grade 5, officials at grade 6, but we all serve the same communities.
Yes.
So can't we use the same formula? Even the formula, you know, that allows for remuneration of public office bearers. For for members of parliament and provincial legislators and councillors is not the same. Therefore, I'm requesting that we continue to strongly lobby for uniformity, to say we must use same formulas. Thank you.
Very powerful, strong points. Thank you very much. That was the last hand, but I didn't get a sign that there's somebody who is seconding what the speaker proposed. But there are hands at the back there. Baba wesiqhoko lapha khayibani uzongena ube number 1 in this next Lorna. Then you'll be number 2. Yes. Help me at the back there if there are more hands. There's number 3 here. Let me get 2 more hands, then I close. Then we close. Oh, there are no more hands. Oh, there was a seconder. Thank you so much. 2 and 3. Come in, number 1 at the back there.
Thank you, Chair. Igama lam nguThulani Mphithikezi. uSpeaker waseMerafong. Deputy Chair weSALGA kwi-province yaseGauteng. And I raised my hand before the NEC can complete his submission. Because it is organizational incorrect when you are bringing a report to the National Members Assembly as NEC. And our belief is that members of the NEC had enough time to engage and made contribution. I'm just imagining when we convene provincial members assembly and a PEC member raise a hand, raise controversial important issues on his or her report. And I think that the NEC has to address that. It can't be correct. So if we leave it unattended here, the NEC member who spoke and others who did not speak, they might think that is the right thing to do and it's wrong to do that. So this is the report which was presented by the President and Langs on behalf of the NEC. And we can't expect any member of the NEC to come and take our time as participants here and raise issues. No, I wanted to raise and correct that, Deputy President. Thank you so much.
Members, Sivile Somlomo and Deputy Chair, it will be processed. Number 2.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Councillor Popim Caesar, the Speaker of Tembisi-Lehane Local Municipality, delegate of this assembly. Chair, the latter speaker partially covered me. What is important that we want to advise? We elected the National Executive Committee to go and represent us. And we believe that whatever decision that they took, presented by the President, they already contributed. But I wanted to advise by saying that when we participate here, can you consider members first, then the NEC will then, therefore, if there's anything that the president has left out, then they will go and sort that out. Because we must have confidence in you, Chair, that the leadership that we elected will definitely represent our interest as local government. In doing that, Chair, I just want to pose a question that I heard that some of the NEC members that are posing questions also spoke about the issue of the staff regulation. My question is the staff regulation not part of the report that they participated to? And Chair, we must also tell you that when we're here, we want to hear more from the NEC to say, whenever they are seated, they are representing us very well, because you are our hopes. Getting to the reports by the president, Chair, we want to check maybe as members, in terms of upper limits. Remember, we need to have a council resolution, and the council is regarded at the local sphere as the highest decision-making board. But yet, we must still take the same report for concurrence of the MEC. So we want to understand exactly to say, as a municipality, if we feel that we are able, we are financially stable, why can't we allow to implement our resolution? We shall give the MEC the report as per our decision. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And the concerns are noted. The earlier concerns, I think, supporting what the first speaker spoke there. Besengithe ngiyavala because there were no hands. But there is Councillor Bushielo there. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Announcing the surname wrong. But there is another hand here. Harifeta, I close. There is another blah blah here. There it will be number 3. Then I have you standing there. With both your hands, you will be number 4. Can I get the last hand? Remember, we started a bit late, and most of the people at the back there arrived very late, and yeah. That will be the last hand as a belief. Speaker?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And let me join colleagues in terms of welcoming the 2 reports. Well, Chair, I think quite a number of ground has been covered. At issue for me will be the issue of the councillor allowance, or you can say salaries. And I'm surprised, this we mentioned even yesterday, that it looks like we want to treat the 3.8% as something of an achievement, which is not. Because as far as we are concerned, this 3.8% is not VAT compliant, is not the CPI index compliant, is not inflation compliant. Therefore, how does a councillor expected to survive year in, year out? I think that is the biggest question that we must ask. We have intimated before that the problem of the commission treating councillors as members of the legislature and members of parliament is unfair. That councillors must be paid from the national fiscus, including employees in the municipalities. Because what has been the situation now is that salaries have competed with provision of services in municipalities. And that is why you will be accused as a municipality to say your wage bill is at this level. Therefore, it means you will not have money enough to provide for services. So for us, that is a matter. We must completely reconfigure the manner in which municipalities are structured so that the national fiscus carry the greater costs, and the money that comes to municipalities can be used directly to provide services to the people.
Yeah.
The second issue is the issue of safety, and I think the president touched on it, and we appreciate that. Councillors are killed day in, day out, and it's a fact, it's known. But compare that with a minister or an MEC. A person who can even take a month or even 2 months without meeting with people. A councillor who is on daily basis meeting with people, angry people, people who are supercharged because they don't have water, is expected to walk alone, is expected to have no security at his house.
Yeah.
But a person who rarely meet with the community, has got bodyguards, staying in a high fenced electric house. For me, I think, in fact, it should have been contrary. It is councillors who must get more protection, more than those that are getting protection at this current moment. So the issue of councillors being murdered on daily basis is not a matter that can be discussed on the basis of people being educated about the safety of councillors and so on. They simply need security, and that's it. In fact, when you secure councillors, you also create employment, because there are people who shall be employment in order to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's do it short and to the point. Thank
No,
you. You can't speak up. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. All protocol is observed. Chairperson, the two things. The first one, Chair, I believe that the concurrence that was required to be obtained from the MEC for the appointment of senior managers was declared illegal. So I'm coming to the issue of the concurrence of your parliaments as well. Is that one illegal? That's a question. The second one, Chairperson, I was leading a municipality which was a plenary type, and we have done away with the plenary type since 2021 November. Now, you've got a collective executive, which has got 3 members of the executive. Do you think that is effective for those 3 members to deal with the service delivery of that municipality, take decisions in their meeting, go and propose to the council? Do you think those 3 people are going to be effective? And remember, there's only one person that is full-time, is the mayor. The other 2 have got other jobs somewhere. Is that going to be effective? Or are we going to come here again next year to say, municipalities have got problems. I recommend that we need to relook at that. The last thing, Chairperson, the issue of full-time and part-time councillors. Which councillor is part-time? Which councillor has got nothing to do? Sometimes he must be part-time and sometimes full-time, because community special ward councillors, they are required by their communities 24 hours. We'll need to look at that. I know SALGA, I've been here for so many years. You've been trying. We are just emphasizing these issues. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. I realized that people are no more introducing themselves. So it's difficult to recall who said what. But I think you can start introducing yourself before speaking.
No, thank
Next
you,
one.
Chair.
Where's the next one?
Kenneth Mkonto
Oh, yes. Thank you.
from city of Mbombela, the capital city of Mpumalanga, and the only city in Mpumalanga. Chairperson, when the president was presenting a report, he mentioned the issue youth and indicated that only one department that is complying. But we are not given more information to say what is happening with the rest of the department and the municipalities, so that we can address the time bomb that we are sitting on. The other matter that I didn't hear plenary talking about is the circular 124. You see, when Parliament is assisting ISCOM during trying times, financial trying times, they call it a bailout. When they bring this to us as municipalities, they are saying we must apply for debt relief with serious conditions. Are they assisting the municipalities to get rid of their debts, or they are putting us right in the fire from the frying pan? Because the conditions are telling you exactly, most municipalities, angeke abe khona in the next few 6 months after being given the green light for this debt relief, according to the conditions. The other matter that is disturbing, Chair, in South Africa is that my brother there mentioned it. What councillors, you will call meetings, you are on your own with your ward committees. Because we don't have a ward called national and province, MECs and ministers will come to the meeting with bodyguards. Once you that is leading the meeting and the principal of the ward, you don't have even a single bodyguard. Is it not contradiction? Can't we address that quickly? The issue of allowances, the president touched and said that we must be taken to the national fiscals and so forth. This matter has been discussed for a number of years, and there's no action that is coming from that level, including the issue of being part-time whilst we are full-time and getting a part-time allowance. I think, Chairperson, it's time that we must action this. That what Omo Union is and in the wrong, bese kuba nesikhathi sekumnyakazo. Asinyakaze phela siye emahlamba ndlovu mhlambe sizathola answer wrong. Thank you.
Siyabonga, siyabonga. Mbombela, my province. Siyabonga.
Thank you, Deputy President, the chairperson of the plenary, and greetings once more again from your province.
Thank you.
Councillor Mswati Kankosi from Mpumalanga, Emalahleni,
Mswati.
the energy heartbeat of the Southern Hemisphere. Deployed as the senior citizen, which is the presiding officer speaker. Chair, I'm partly covered by the previous speakers, but I must emphasize the matter that it mustn't be a talk show or a public stunt or a PR exercise. I'm lobbying these delegates of the National Members Assembly of SALGA in good standing that part of the declaration must be that as much there are engagement with either the National Treasurer or COGTA, starting from the next financial year, we must, as local government, be paid in the national fiscals. It mustn't be a talk show or white paper and blue paper. We must be paid in the national fiscals as a sphere of government, unless we are orphans who are begging, who are stepkids to the other two spheres of government. The safety of councillors is covered, Chair. The one of the secular, just to emphasize, can secular 124 that must not have condition of phases, because if you default, NERSA might even take your license. And we know that local government, most of the municipalities rely on selling of electricity for their revenue. Can all municipalities be bailed out like they do to SABC, SAA, ISCOM, without any terms and conditions, without phase 1, phase 2, phase 3? Because if you are saying it must be conditionally that you must generate revenue, while you are telling us of just energy transition, that is causing more phases of load shedding. There's injustice even in that. So in order for us to start on a clean slate, cancel all the debts for all municipalities without terms and conditions. I will therefore support and second the reports of the NEC that were elected by us as presented by either the President or the COO, with all the additions, not for discussions, lobbying the plenary that it's a recommendation as we are respecting, but it must be an instruction that must happen. I so thank you.
Swati, siyabonga. Thank you very much. Let us applaud the acceptance and the support for both the reports that were presented, that they are adopted and supported. Thank you very much. The questions are very critical and clear. If some of the questions were not responded to, it won't be because we are ignoring those. Lance has been taking notes, the President has been taking notes, I've been jotting down here, and I will allow both of them to come forth with the responses, and after that we will break for 5 minutes for just a leg stretch and come back so that we can finish early. Maybe we can make a working tea break, because we have taken more time earlier before we started late, in fact. So we have to cover time. Responses? President, COO? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think let me start with the one that deals with Circular 124. Debt reliefs. I think it will be important that as a council to understand what is our role. The Constitution gives responsibility to municipalities to reticulate, distribute water and electricity. This is a constitutional issue. And for you to do that, you get a license. Now, you must be careful. And that is why municipalities, I was saying to the office when we were told in dealing with this regulation or circular, I was saying it is important for us to be very careful in whatever that we do. So member municipalities, before they entangle themselves into crisis, it's important to consult and get verification and engage SALGA. Because what is that, the intention of that true back door is for you to hand over your license of operation. That is the intention at the hindsight of that. but it's not clearly defined in the write-up. So that is why, the first question you must ask yourself, why are you a member of an association such as SALGA? Why do you pay levy to SALGA? I will assume that you pay levy because you want SALGA to assist you when you face difficulties of life. So handing over of your license, you entangle yourself. So when you have signed that debt relief, and automatically you agree that if you can't continue paying, and then you're handing over a license, where are you going to get an instrument of collection? It is important for us at all material times that avoid the intention, which is deliberate, to intrude or into erode what is constitutionally permissible to you. Because look, this thing is very tricky and it's only lawyers. Lance is a lawyer, is one of the lawyers in the House. It's very tricky to a point that it says, these are the terms for you to look. And if you agree on these terms, you agree to pay. And once you fail to pay, voluntarily, you hand over the license. You know what does that mean? Even if you go to court, voluntarily you hand it over the license of operation. So it is important as you do all these plans, interact. In SALGA, we've got capable team, staff that Xolile and them, they've left. Masondo, Parks, Tembi, they've left. So I'm saying, we must at all material times, because there is an energy outside there to intrude into local government space. There is an energy, so we need to look into that energy. It's one energy that we must always look after, not to agree. I think some of the questions asked here were in this hall during the local government summit, or what it was, summit, yeah, summit. The President of the Republic, after a call made, I think Northwest Chair was amongst those that mobilized one another, that there should be an imbizo. So this imbizo must also start from mayors, so that we understand the mayor's concerns, speaker's concerns, council's concerns. And the President of the Republic agreed on that. I think it's a program that we need to work with the minister so that that particular commitment is met. So some of these issues that we are talking about, we are able to bring it to that level. I think the other question is pertaining to category, the size. A councillor is a councillor irrespective. Irrespective, you're in category 1, you're in category 7 or 20 category. But you are declared to be a councillor, to be a servant in a demarcated environment where you need to render service. And thereby, this is the struggle that SALGA and the leadership that came before us have been engaged on, the struggle that a councillor is a councillor irrespective of the area where he belongs. So I must say, at least with the changes in the cabinet today, we are happy at least you are having your voice is beginning to make some sense to individuals that are leading. So we must appreciate that. We mustn't just throw it away. We must appreciate that. But we must work on it, because that it will come with the energy that we must put behind it. Hearing us and implementation of such is a complete two different things. So for now, it's something that we must appreciate in dealing with that. I think in South Africa, that is why yesterday in the debate and the discussion, some of them they may say it was useless. Yesterday debate, the grand debate, it was a very good debate. One of the issues that grand debate raised yesterday was challenging the philosophy around categorization of municipalities and remuneration of individuals on basis of category. And that it speaks at the heart of the disparities within the municipalities. That disparity is talked to allocation, it talks to capacity, the skill, and whatever that you may want to call it. And that debate, it was a very important debate, which I think it is important for us to take it as an important debate going into future. Is it not about time, as we look into 1998 white paper with its assumption and the understanding of the time, that could not even look into the future, that in 20, 15 years after 1998, how the economic situation would look like? Isn't then about time to look into the categorization of municipalities and so on? I think, to me, it gives us a better opportunity, and it's important for us to deal with that. Let me make this comment and give Lance. Lance is going to deal with these issues that are very technical and legal. I'm not a legal expert. Yes, it is generally agreement in the sector. And this agreement didn't come and fell from the sky. It was a struggle waged by SALGA. Leadership before us, we came when they waged this struggle. That Section 139 intervention, there is no proof that is working. It has been a SALGA struggle for time immemorial. Okay. Now, at least we have a case that we can refer to, various cases throughout the country, to show the system has never worked. In fact, by the way, that is why it compels National Treasurer to conduct a study. And all of us, we are in agreement that Section 139 intervention, it has never worked. What is worse, I think I agree with you, even though I think the speaker of Itzima Rafung says, no, you speak out of context because you're an NEC member. I agree that if you look into the failures of the Section 139 intervention, is as a result of individuals that are sent to intervene in municipalities, are individuals that are failures themselves. They failed in one way or another in one municipality and anywhere else. Then now a person goes to national, become a better person according to your processes. And then you can deploy that person to local government, because local government is a playfield. So it is important for us to always look and deal with that matter and decisively really deal with it, because local government is not really a playfield. It's a real government that must render service to communities and deal with the challenges. And that is why I was making an example about Mfuleni. Mfuleni intervention is an intervention of a national and provincial government taking over a municipality. Today, as we speak, Mfuleni's bank account has been attached because is owing ESCOM around 6 billion rand under the supervision of the capable individuals. I think then on the 3%, 3.8%, why we are saying we must appreciate. It's only those that were involved in the process that will appreciate that. Because at the initial stage, there was an argument that was placed before that says there should be no increment. Because the economy is not performing. And this argument, it ran true up until to a point that Minister and SALGA were come together under one roof and say, but this, it can't be correct because municipalities has not been receiving increment for a period of time. And it moved to 3%, to 3.8%, and so on. And you must appreciate that frog jump. It's an important frog jump towards a bigger successes into the future. And that is why, to us, we believe that forming partnership and relations with other spheres of government and other stakeholders outside government and business, it's a paramount important program that we must wage so that all of us, we can deal with the challenges that we are facing. As I learned, divorce, that is not President Mbeki's name, it's my name. I think it is right leadership And as I've said to leadership of SALGA administratively, we must support the initiative that has been started by that small gravesite municipality. A mayor in that municipality is given a responsibility to manage graves. And they've managed to wage a ruthless struggle to confront the ESCO. And they've managed to win the battle. And the court agrees to set a mediation process. And this is a victory that the small municipality waged a ruthless struggle against a big players in the economic cycle. And it is important for us as an association to support and work with them. In fact, by the way, I was saying to Lance, I want to see, going to the next NEC and presidency, a detailed report about what is our role as an association in supporting that small municipality in achieving these battles.
Thank you very much, President. I will allow Lance to respond to the few questions that are left and request him, after responding to those questions, to outline the commissions. And after he has outlined the commissions, we will then go for commissions because it's to 12 now. I want to believe he will take 5 minutes to respond on questions. The follow-up questions, because I noticed that most of the people who spoke here serve at the provinces as well. We can then deal with those questions there. They can come to the NEC because most of the requests that are made here is that the NEC in its sitting must take decisions on 1, 2, 3, and that also must be included. Now, after Lance have outlined the commissions, will go for lunch until 1:30. Commissions first, then you will be called for lunch, but lunch will be ready by, kana komang lunch? 1:30, eh? 1:30 will be lunch, then 2:00. We are shortening time because people will be leaving. 2:00, we will be back to the plenary. Lunch?
Thank you very much, DP. It sounds like the President is in the mode of giving us names. I also have a name, like Councillor DeVos's name. I'm not going to respond to questions as such. There were many contributions that were made, additions to what we had said either today or what was previously said, a reinforcement or emphasis on those areas, so I'm not going to respond to those. The responses would be, firstly, there was a request for support. I think the President has committed that we will indeed assist Dr. Beyers-Naudé in the facilitation matter with ESCOM. The second one I will respond to, it's linked also to Mayor DeVos's comments. As the President has reported, we are in court on 2 matters. The first one is on the declaratory order that is referred to by Mayor DeVos, which the President also covered in his input. That is an ongoing process, and the frustration that the Mayor just reflected on the facilitation process is the same frustration we are currently experiencing on the declaratory order, because there are many preliminary matters that are being raised, including many parties wanting to join the proceedings based on them being ESCOM clients. But it's a matter that is before the courts, and unfortunately will have to respect the court processes. The second matter that we are in court with, which the President indicated, us challenging the tariff increases set by NERSA. It is going to be heard this Monday, the 11th of September, and 5 days have been set aside for that matter. So it will conclude on next week, Friday the 15th, and then we will wait for the judgment from that process. The next area I would respond to is around the appointment of administrators. There is a process championed by the Department of Cooperative Governance on the Intergovernmental Monitoring Support and Interventions Bill. The closing date for comments was on the 26th of August, but this is a matter we know that has been raised, and I think we should use that opportunity of comments to emphasize the point that was made that there must be more rigor around the appointment of administrators. So the one part, let's make our comments on the bill. The second part is to, because we have the problem currently, is to engage with the appropriate authorities prior to the appointment of those administrators. The second last point I'm going to speak to is on the word concurrence was used, and concurrence in our context as per the example given. The first one was on upper limits notice, the other one was on the appointment of the municipal manager and senior managers. On the last one, there is no concurrence. The Systems Act does not make mention to the word concurrence. The Systems Act says once a municipality has taken a decision to make an appointment, it must within 14 days communicate that decision to the MEC. It then goes further, it says that the MEC must within 14 days of receiving the information from the municipality, assess whether the appointment is in line with the defined processes. And if the MEC feels that the appointment is not in line with the processes, the MEC may engage the municipality to get it to revisit its position, or alternatively go to court. There's no concurrency. Concurrency means that when I say no, you can't implement. That's the difference. The word concurrency is used specifically in the upper limits notice. If you go to page 3 of the upper limits notice, it shows there. In fact, it says concurrency means that you must get the approval of the MEC before implementation. But it is a simple one. It is to assess whether the implementation by council of the Gazette is in line with the Gazette. So that is the key difference between the two instances. But one is concurrence, the other one is an assessment of appropriateness of the processes followed. Last point I will respond to. It is a good point. It is a point that we have sustained over the years. It is a point that the Commission itself, in its November report, has already made reference to, and it's around the payment from the National Fiscus. But I thought I must also make this point, President, because sometimes we are not aware. We are inviting all municipalities to go and check the allocation made to them. Your allocation, depending on what grade you are, already gives you your remuneration from the National Fiscus. So I invite you in your own time to go and check, do you receive an allocation? Because when we look at the Division of Revenue Act, it shows allocations made to municipalities for remuneration of councillors. So that allocation comes from the National Fiscus. The only ones that are excluded at this point are your grades 5 and 6. Below that, in 4, below that, you already get the allocation. But for your own benefit, go and have a look at your allocation and see whether it is there. The reason why I'm making this point, President, is if you are receiving the allocation from the National Fiscus, there should not be an argument about affordability, because you're not using your own money. You are using money that is coming from the National Fiscus. And that should be the basis for your response to an MEC when they say, it's not affordable. You say, but it comes from, as part of the equitable share. It's there. So you can't call it unaffordable. So I thought I should stop there, President, on responding to the questions, but we have taken on board the issues that have emerged. On the assignment given to me by the Deputy President, we still have the commissions. They were supposed to have started an hour ago and run until 1. The DP has now indicated that it will run as of when we conclude up until 1:30, so an hour and a half allocated for it. The first commission, Commission 7, on towards sustainable water service provider mechanisms, will take place in this plenary, so there's a focus on water. The second commission, which is Commission 8, which is accelerating the adoption of digital systems, data solutions, and innovations, it will take place in OR Tambo 1, which is where the lunch is going to take place. So you will already be in the lunch venue. Commission 9, public transport, roads, and public works, will take place in Marco Polo. Commission 10, fostering meaningful economic development through local government collaboration and partnerships, will be in OR Tambo 2, which is next to OR Tambo 1, inside the OR Tambo building. And then Commission 11, environmental sustainability, waste management, climate, and disaster resilience, is in Kinshaka, which is called domestic. It's in the building called domestic. Inside there is a Kinshaka room for that commission. And then the last commission, which I'm sure is going to attract a lot of attention, coalition governments. It's in Cape Town. It's also in the same domestic, the venue called domestic, and inside there's a room called Cape Town. So those are the commissions, DP, and lunch will start at 1, and we will come back at 2 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you, delegates. We may disperse to commissions straight away. You can just grab a cup of tea, coffee, and proceed to commission rooms.
Thank you, Madam.
When listening to people, they're not going to come back. So maybe the president might start thinking about what is the way.
I think the issue that we are raising, going to commissions, we have
Yeah, that's.
I keep a consent. It's fine now that you have.
Yeah, okay. So is there anything that you need from me? That's
Not ready. I can. Where do we go I'm gonna remove my computer. This one.
Is this the one that projects?
Guys,
Cutting numbers. Yeah, so I'm going to do my little 8 minutes.
So, the presentation is flight you. Or
yes. Booty.
Lubabs.
Lubaban presentation. Where is it?
Yes.
Quickly.
Lubaban, you are sitting next to me, right? When you finish presenting. Yeah, but I'm saying when you... Hey, I'm fine, Judge. Oh, right. Wahamba nobani? Bake abantu bakho. Ambazi mina ngindodwa, kodwa sivele kuzo. Akezanga. I said to uJondo. Ngitshelile uJondo ngathi, "Say man nominate." Ngiyakhohlwa nje ngathi make serious decisions. And you would find ukuthi abantu benu they will be here first day that is here. Because they don't take this thing serious. Nayizolo ngibona ushivele. Which commission are you? Today, which commission?
Okay, maybe. Okay, sorry. The person presenting, are they presenting with their laptop?
There's the guy.
Yeah, Rudolph, come and get this one. I think they are using their own. Sure. Sorry? Henry? Yeah, I don't know who that is, man. No, Henry is not here. Ray, he should be in one of the commissions. Okay. Are they presenting with their laptop? Is what I want to find out. You see? Excuse me, sir.
Councillor Zungu, the Whip of Council, City of Johannesburg, your name tag is here. You probably lost it somewhere outside. Good afternoon to all the members of the commission. May I request that we all move forward? This is the Commission 7 towards sustainable water services provider mechanisms. All participants of the commission, if we can move forward, we're chasing behind time. We will start in 2 minutes. Ufuna siqale klar. All participants of the commission, please move forward. Technical people, are we ready? Not yet. Are we ready? Okay.
Let me just put on a jacket. Please, I will leave it. What's the slides, the questions?
No. Let me take this opportunity to welcome all of the members present. Abathatha ama pictures nababulisanayo sicela nigqibe. My name is Nikki Wenam. I am the member of the National Executive Committee of SALGA, responsible for water, sanitation, and other services. I'm going to be chairing the session for today. Let me take this opportunity to welcome all of the members present, to the technical team, to all the panelists that are already seated, all participants from various provinces, representatives from various stakeholders, Indluye Nkosi, the President in his absentia, all protocol observed. Ordinarily, I was supposed to give an abstract, just a quick indication of what the committee is going to be doing. Now, we are responsible for 144 municipalities, 8 metros, about 23 district municipalities and more than 113 local municipalities, all of which are water service providers. They have the authority to provide water and sanitation services. SALGA, in its work, continues to do assessment, link with municipalities, and integrate its reports to inform decision-making, but also to advise local municipalities on what areas should we improve for us to provide a better service. Now, we all know, colleagues, we have not provided sustainable, reliable, consistent water and sanitation services across all our municipalities. We all know that. That's why we are here. Today, we are going to be talking amongst ourselves and finding solutions on what are the areas that need to improve. We also know that our bulk infrastructure for water and sanitation is not in a desired state. We also know that the services that we are providing towards our communities, we are not seeing a return in that investment because of the economic impact and issues that relate to the collection of revenue in our municipalities. We also know that the various grants that are available to municipalities, we've not been able to spend them appropriately, and the impact on what we are spending is not what we are seeing. Now, all of these things are issues that we are going to be discussing in Samar. Let me take this opportunity to now introduce our panel members. I've tried to summarize because we're chasing towards time. The first panel member that we have is Dr. Lisiba. If you can just raise your hand, Dr. Lisiba, so that everybody knows. Dr. Lisiba is the chairperson of the Water and Sanitation Committee in the Gauteng Provincial Working Group. He represents the Gauteng province. So he'll be speaking on behalf of all of the other chairpersons that could not be in the panel. Dr. Sean Phillips, the DG of the Department of Water and Sanitation. Thank you for being here. You are welcome. Mr. Alan Zimbwa, or we've replaced, you are representing. Mr. Phil Mashoko, the representative on behalf of the DDG of the Municipal Infrastructure Support Grant, MISA. Welcome and thank you very much for being available. And then we have Mr. Richard Holden, the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority. I'm not sure whether you are the chair, the CEO. That title has not been included, but you'll have an opportunity. You are also welcome. Can we take a very big round of applause for our panel members? Mr. Lubabalo Luyaba is our technical advisor in the committee, who will immediately, when I step down, give us a scene setting. What is it that SALGA has done? What are the critical issues and areas? And where do we go from here? Just so that all of us, we've got a baseline from where we're going to be discussing. Mr. Lubabalo, welcome. You've got 5 minutes to summarize your presentation. Okay, let me give you 7 minutes because you are looking me in a very terrible way. 7 minutes is fine. You can come to the podium and start making your presentation. Thank you very much. I have already introduced myself. My name is Nikki Wenam, the chairperson of the SALGA Working Group of the National Executive Committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, honorable councillors, esteemed guests, counting officers and colleagues, all protocol observed. As said, my name is Lubabalo Luyaba, Water and Sanitation SALGA National. Mine is to set the scene, and the title of the commission is Towards Sustainable Water Services Provider Mechanisms. In setting the scene, there is a discussion document that has been shared. I think we will start with the changes that are on the horizon that DWS DG will unpack, the desired future state, the key interventions towards the desired state, and through the chair, we will get into discussions. In a nutshell, Honorable Commission, there is, our water and sanitation services are in an undesirable state. And because we're in an undesirable state, there's need for change. I think all agree there's need for change. We perhaps disagree on how that change ought to be undertaken. The Department of Water and Sanitation has a particular perspective on how that needs to be done. We have some challenges with the proposal, as it may cause a lot of challenges and problems for municipalities. But the Director General will unpack what they think needs to be done to turn the sector around. But what is important from these engagements is that as SALGA, we not simply disagree, but we put on the table workable alternatives that we think might be suitable for local government. So one of the purposes of this discussion is to do precisely that. Another big reform that is on the cards is the amendment of the Water Services Act. We, again, see some challenges with this particular proposal, but DG, DWS will unpack what it is that they intend to do and how they intend to do it. But we may agree that changing legislation perhaps ought not to be the first point of call as we seek to reform and improve the sector as is. What is important, Honourable Commission, is to accept and appreciate that some municipalities are doing well, other municipalities are not doing well. And a large part of why some municipalities are doing well and others are doing well is around the finances. You'll see on this slide, we've got a balance between expenditure and revenue. There's been a lot of discussion around municipalities not having sufficient revenues to provide water and sanitation services in a sustainable manner. We think that's one of the big problems. And again, changing things like the Water Services Act to strengthen intervention mechanisms isn't going to solve the issue of municipalities not having adequate revenues. So that's one of the key things that need to be considered in the discussion. Another key thing, Honourable Commission, that we must consider is what is a municipality? A municipality is defined as the council, the administration, and the community. So again, as we say municipalities are not doing well, or municipalities are doing well, which part of the municipality are we referring to? And we need to take care to look at a municipality as it actually is and not reduce it to only a council or only administration or only the community, and introduce reforms that deal with all of those things. Because if we fail to do that, we are not likely to see the change that we need in the sector in general. The other issue to bring forward, when we say municipalities know that all is not well, we're not making that up. This is just a map that shows from the Municipal Strategic Self-Assessment, about 90% of municipalities, so 90% of the 144 municipalities completed this. And the top challenges from the perspective of the municipalities themselves are financial asset management, wastewater and environmental compliance, the issue of revenue collection, which then affects everything, operations and maintenance of assets, infrastructure asset management, and water conservation and water demand management, which speaks to the topic of high non-revenue water. One of the things we've been saying as SALGA is when any department, national or provincial, claims to support municipalities, to what extent does the support correspond to what the municipalities know as the problem on the ground? Or it's a matter of saying we supported you, whatever support we provide is good enough, and if we don't see an improvement, we then need to intervene. So there's a discussion to be had around the quality and the quantity and appropriateness of the support that is provided to local government, and devising mechanisms to ensure that municipalities receive appropriate support. And this is not to say municipalities are running away from their own obligations, but there is that Section 154 constitutional obligation to support and strengthen the capacity of local government to perform its functions. And there's questions on the extent to which that has been done. Another issue, I think the Chair has unpacked all of the challenges already, but it's important to differentiate the types of challenges that municipalities face. There's events which are the usual challenges that we face on a day-to-day, sewer spillages, water interruptions, etc. Then there's patterns and trends. Then there's the systemic and the structural issues. What is key is to say when there's a challenge in a municipality, to ask why at least 3 times, and then devise a solution that responds to all of those things. One of the issues we're putting forward, Honourable Commission, is the issue of inadequate support, both in terms of quality and quantity, from provincial and national spheres of government, which undermines a local government mandate systematically. This is something that's not discussed adequately, and a lot of municipalities are actually on their own. And we think if we were to deal with this, we would move in a direction that would result in some level of improvement. Then there's the desired future state. I think, in summary, the desired future state is that everyone in this country would have access to reliable and sustainable water and sanitation services. There's different ways of measuring that, but I think we can also, again, all agree that we are not necessarily there. So what would be the key interventions towards the desired future state? Well, one that's for discussion is exploring alternative water service delivery mechanisms in a differentiated manner, not going one size fits all. DWS has a particular proposal on how we could perhaps undertake this. It'll be very interesting to hear from local government what options we have. The second is the introduction of appropriate incentives and disincentives for persistent poor performance. But the key here is that it must be for persistent poor performance when appropriate and responsive support has been provided, because in the end we want to see improvement. And the last is accountability and consequence management not being limited to local government. The system works when everyone accounts. Currently, you could argue there is no incentive for provincial and national government to perform, because whether or not they perform, they get their salaries at the end of the day. But as a municipality, if you don't perform, you are likely to not even get your salaries. So we need to build a system where everyone is held to account for the functions that they are supposed to perform. And currently we do not have that, and SALGA, as organized local government, is well positioned to champion for that. And then the last slide, Chair, is there's a big discussion around should the Water Service Authority function be at the district or the local municipality level. SALGA, organized local government and local government as a whole, must take care for this discussion to not happen in the absence of municipalities. Municipalities must be a part of this, and as municipalities, we must provide strategic guidance. This picture just shows you of the 144 water service authorities, how performance looks between districts and locals. You can see there's a bit of green, there's a lot of red in either case. What is important as we have this discussion is for it to be evidence-based, and how these colors were arrived at was looking at service delivery performance in the form of 1, expenditure in grants, 2, levels of non-revenue water, 3, non-compliance notices to the Department of Water and Sanitation, and which is covered in part by the green and the blue drop scores. So again, if you look at this, you can't say LMs or DMs are necessarily performing better. So as we have this discussion, it sort of needs to be evidence-based and fair if it is to take us to where we need to go. We hope that the panel will deliberate on those issues and more. Chair, back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lubabalo. We appreciate the input. Now, we are going, because the detail have been provided, we're now going to take our panel members, and thank you very much for being here with us. We will start with the DG of the Department of Water and Sanitation. Mr. Sean Phillips, I'm not sure, Mr. Lubabalo, the 2 slides that you wanted to leave on the screen, is this? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon, everybody. As the National Department of Water and Sanitation and as the regulator of water services, we are very concerned about the sustainability of water services, both in terms of financial sustainability and service delivery sustainability. Debts owed by municipalities to the water boards are increasing exponentially. We have already had to close down one water board, Sedibeng Water, because it became bankrupt as a result of the debts owed to it by the municipalities that it served. The water sector is self-financing, the water services sector. There's no funding made available to the water boards through the national government. We don't give the water boards any money. So if a water board goes bankrupt, in the case of Sedibeng, it could no longer buy the chemicals required to treat the water. It could no longer pay staff. We had no alternative but to close it down and to transfer its assets and liabilities to Bloom Water. together with its geographic areas. The next water board that's going to go bankrupt is Bloem Water. It's now called Vaal Central Water. On the current trajectory and with the lack of payment by the municipalities, it is going to go bankrupt too. Once Vaal Central or Bloem Water goes bankrupt, there'll be nothing we can do. There won't be another water board that we can replace it with, and it will stop providing treated water to the municipalities that it serves. We're also very worried in terms of the decline in services. Our Green Drop report last year indicated a marked decline in the quality, in the performance of wastewater treatment systems generally across the country, with 40% of municipal wastewater treatment systems being in a critical condition of performance, which means that we're very lucky that we've only had one cholera outbreak. We could have many more cholera outbreaks throughout the country in these circumstances. Similarly, our Blue Drop report, which we're going to be issuing this month, is going to show a marked decline in the performance of municipal drinking water systems, with an increase from 3% in 2012 to 30% of municipal drinking water systems which during the last financial year at one time or another didn't meet drinking water quality standards, which in fact is even more worrying in terms of life-threatening diseases such as chronic diarrhea and cholera. DWS provides quite a lot of support to municipalities. We have various grants. Our minister is constantly traveling around the country, meeting with municipalities which are struggling with the water and sanitation function, trying to agree on action plans to address the issues with the municipal leadership. And then afterwards, the department and the water boards are providing support to municipalities. But there are limitations to this support, and we don't think that this support is sufficient to turn the situation around. Firstly, we can't have any influence over billing and revenue collection. Secondly, we can't have any influence over whether the municipal leadership and the council prioritizes budgeting for water and sanitation, and whether it prioritizes budgeting to hire the people with the required qualifications, like process controllers. What we find is that we're repeatedly going back and giving money to municipalities to repair and rehabilitate infrastructure which is deteriorated due to a lack of maintenance. And what we find as well, in some places where we're providing support and we're trying to help the municipalities implement action plans to provide support, our advice is not listened to. So as indicated by Lubabalo, our view is that the water services sector in municipalities is in a vicious circle of going downwards. It's in a vicious downward spiral, where you have reducing payments by citizens, you have poorly performing institutions, you have low investment, and then you have poor and declining services. And all of these things feed into each other and are resulting in a downward spiral. We think that the point at which we need to intervene and focus on intervening is at the institutional level to ensure that water services are provided by professional, capable, and efficient institutions. And in order to do that, to reach that goal, we are going to amend the Water Services Act to strengthen the role of municipalities as water services authorities. In terms of the existing provisions of the Act, which differentiate between the Water Services Authority and water service providers, we want to see water services authorities better playing their role in terms of the Act of ensuring that whoever is the water service provider in that municipality provides water services according to national minimum norms and standards. To do that, we need to provide a mechanism so that the Water Services Authority can, on the basis of evidence, determine whether a water service provider is meeting the standards and whether it has the capability to do that. And based on a review of international experience, the best mechanism that we've identified to do that is to introduce an operating license system for water service providers, which will be differentiated between different types of municipalities. We also want to amend Section 63 of the Water Services Act to enable the Minister as a last resort to intervene and require a water service authority to appoint a licensed water service provider. And we also want to do amendments to the Act to more clearly define the roles of water service providers versus water services authorities, and to clarify that other functions such as billing and revenue collection for water and supply chain management for water and sanitation and HR management are all part of the water service provider function. So if this amended Section 63 is going to work, there will have to be alternative licensed WSPs available, and it's going to take time for that capacity to develop in the country. So if the amendments get passed, the Minister will have to only implement Section 63 very judiciously, as and when alternative capacity and capability of licensed WSPs becomes available. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You stick to the 7 minutes. We've got a perspective from DWS on what is it that they are doing, particularly on issues that deals with reforms. On the same breath, acknowledging the challenges that are facing us, the visual cycle that faces us, whether on infrastructure capacity, for us to provide reliable, sustainable services to our communities. To the panel members, I'm now going to call upon on stage a representative from MISA. What do you think must happen now that the evidence is there, the report has been provided? How, as MISA, do you think you can collaborate, strengthen, to improve the conditions, the infrastructure, but also bring in the alternatives that could assist us towards our desired future? Ndati, you can speak from there. You are allowed.
Thank you very
Are the
much.
mics on? Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much, MC. Well, from the MISA side, MISA provides support to municipalities. When we get into municipalities, we see a lot of challenges related to water function. And one of the major issues is the issue of asset management or the instability of infrastructure. The challenge that we're having, or that we are picking, is that asset management has been delegated, or relegated rather, to the finance function, and yet asset management is about technical. It's a technical issue, it's not a finance issue. So there is need to enforce, make it almost like compulsory, to have, to practice best practices in asset management. The other issue that we have noticed in the municipalities that we go into is the service delivery model itself. The challenges that municipalities are facing with water boards and all other, the district and the municipality. If you look at the Constitution Section 152 is very clear about the role of local government. The role of local government is not to provide services. It's not. The role of local government is to ensure the provision of services. Now, ensuring and providing are two different things. The challenge that we're having is that we have all substituted ensure with provide, and we are taking the responsibilities that we cannot handle. So there is need to look at a special purpose vehicles that will be used to provide services. And the other issue that we are picking is the issue of maybe integration of support to the municipalities. We have DBSA, we have SALGA, we have MISA, we have DWS, we have COCTA. They all land at the door of the municipalities. There's need for integration. It could be a soft integration, it could be a hard integration. Hard decisions have to be made there. We are spreading ourselves thinly when we are providing that expertise. So it's one of the areas that we need to look at. And also the issue of skills. What we have picked is that there is this thinking that the old type of skills that we used to have are still relevant to the challenges that we are facing in local government.
Local government, it needs a different set of skills. For instance, if you have engineers are very good at putting things together, design and all that. But if you try to make an engineer project manager, you're making a mistake. Because their appreciation of the social relations is a different issue. So the skills mapping is very, very, very important. For instance, business analysis is becoming key, but you don't find business analysts in the local government. So how do you improve the efficiencies in the operations? So that's one issue. The other issue is the structured finance. What we have noticed is that there's a lot of vandalism that is happening within municipalities, theft, vandalism of infrastructure. If you look at it, it's a decay of the social and the relations capital between the community and the municipality itself. How do you try to build it up? You can try to build it up through ownership. And we have never had creative financing strategies that bring in communities into building of infrastructure. I think we should start going there so that they can protect the infrastructure that they own as well if they are part of it. The issue of data management is key. And it's missing. You go to municipalities, you don't get information that is ideal and appropriate or that will enable you to do proper planning. Data is not there. How do you make decisions without information, without data? So it's one area that needs to be looked at. And also, the last point that I just want to bring on this one is the issue of the gig market, the gig human capital market. It's what is happening around the world now is that you find these young people who are coming from universities who are very switched on. They don't want to stay in an organization for a long time. They want to work for 3 months, get the maximum whatever they can get out of it, and they move to the next organization. We don't have capacity in terms of engineers. Why can't we start thinking about that model of gig market where you don't employ an engineer for 40 years? 1 year he's doing something, the next year he doesn't, there isn't much work to do. What are we doing? So we have to optimize the little that we have. I think that's where I can end for the time being.
Thank you very much. A round of applause. We could come back to you later. I'm now going to very important factors that you've raised on the entire value chain of ensuring that our governance structures, our project management structures are intact. Mr. Richard, now that you've heard and there's an acknowledgement, what would you provide as solutions and possible areas of improvement to the sector? Mr. Richard Holden, Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority. Thank you very much.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to make it clear I'm speaking in my personal capacity. They've invited me as SALGA from the 40-odd years of experience I've had in water provision municipal services on there. Okay, from a solution, you've got to understand the problem. One of the things is we've got to ask ourselves, in a country diverse as South Africa, economically, geographically and everything, is this one-size-fits-all model of water service provision? And my colleague from MISA made the point. We've come to the point that municipalities shall provide, not ensure. And he's pointed out there's a huge difference between those two words. So even in Pofadder, which my colleague here has just been to, you're still saying in a remote town in the Northern Cape, you shall provide in the entire municipal area, which is more than the town. So is that the right model? We've got to look at it, and you've got to understand, in South Africa, we've never sustainably provided water and sanitation services to our population. We didn't do it pre-94. If you lived in Soweto, Alex, in the rural areas, you will know you did not get a sustainable service. Okay, I worked in those areas. But what is also interesting We had the white areas like Santon, the rich areas, who carefully cut themselves off from everyone else. Santon used to charge rates a quarter of Johannesburg. Why? Because their roads were provided by the provincial administration. Their waterworks was provided by Rand Water. They tapped into northern Johannesburg works. So this problem goes back a long way. So the question is, have we made the right decision? When we expanded the municipalities to wall, we expected small towns who could barely manage their own services now to cover a bigger area. Okay. The other problem we've had in the small towns is we've had loss of professional capacity. And a lot of it is due to the education is not there for the children. Professionals are now 2 professionals, so you've got to find jobs for 2 professionals in rural areas, and also the bright lights of the city. I took colleagues from the department down to the Tegay Laval scheme, and one of the colleagues went, "Where's the KFC? Where's the mug and bean?" You cannot attract people to the... So is it we insist that municipalities have the capacity when we can't attract people there? We've got to look at alternatives. In places like Scotland, now Scotland, okay, bear in mind it's only 5.5 million people compared to Rand Water, which supplies 11 million people. Scottish Water, which is a publicly owned entity, supplies the whole of Scotland, which is the Central Valley of Scotland, Glasgow, Edinburgh, plus all the rural areas as well. There's massive cross-subsidisation from the metro area into the rural areas. It's the only way they can make it financially sustainable. But also, when you look at a place like Denmark, okay, Denmark population 5.9 million. Denmark is 100% groundwater, okay? And in their groundwater, a lot of the small rural communities run that groundwater themselves. If you go to our rural areas, a lot of our communities ran their own schemes. I worked for the Mvula Trust. Jean de la Harpe sitting there actually looked at it. They worked. We destroyed it. But what they need is support. They need to be supported when something goes wrong, they can fix it. And again, I've just been working with a body corporate in Yeovil, which has a pump to get its water to the tank and the roof. What's the difference between a pump drawing out of the Joburg supply and a pump drawing out of the groundwater? Nothing. But a body corporate can run their own supply, and they're probably serving about 50 or 60 flats. But in the rural areas, communities who can run, they've shown they can run their own schemes. For some reason, we stopped it. Why don't we revert to that? Because that will take a huge burden off municipalities in the rural areas. Okay, the other thing which we are hugely impacted for, I've managed to drag out this thing called Guideline to Municipal Services issued by the Transvaal Provincial Administration in 1980. According to this guideline, black people do not exist in the urban area. It actually states that the population of small towns except the Bantu. These are the words in this document. So what we did, this document was to provide the American dream to the white population. Big stands, wide roads. Go to Welkom, go to Oudendaalsrus, go to Secunda, go to Sasolburg. They are built to this standard. The question is, a standard which was built for the minority, can we afford it with the majority? Can we actually sustain it? And funny enough, you go to those areas, the answer is no. Go to Welkom. Welkom is falling apart. Okay, there's no other words for it, but it's one of the most, it's flat as a pancake, the sewers are like 5 meters deep, it's got 40-odd pump stations. It was a disaster on 2 feet of spatial planning. The white area had all the services. In 2007, I was still eradicating buckets in the townships in that area. And the question then becomes, the economic base of Welkom, Oudendaalsrus, Virginia is gone. The gold mines have closed. The last gold mines are closing in the next 5 years. How do we sustain that? Can we expect a municipality like that to sustain itself going into the future? Putiditjaba, same thing. That was grand apartheid.
when you look at the people living up there. There is no economic base up there. Asan Malutia Apafong, how is it going to support themselves? And that means this cross-subsidization is necessary. So
1 minute.
Okay, do we cross-subsidize through the tax base, or do we cross-subsidize through an institution like Scottish Water? And when you look at it, Umgeni Water does a cross-subsidization. It's virtually the same tariff for every municipality in its area, even though it runs different schemes. So those are some of the things. I think one of the things which SALGA has got to address hugely is payment for water. It would be easier as a professional if you just told us the day you want the scheme turned off. Farmers are the same thing. They celebrate when they get a below inflation rate increase. But if that canal fails, their business is gone. So I've been in meetings with councillors where castigated around water for the increase. I sit at the highest point in Joburg. I know what it's like when Rand Water doesn't deliver. So the message going out there is you must pay for water, as the DG has said, revenue billing collection, and you've got to make sure that you bill people correctly, because the billing is a nightmare. People get cut off unfairly and then other people hide behind it, okay? So, yeah, on that, on payment, and then the final thing I'll do is integration. We have split our systems up as history, but now they get, because we've got less and less water available, they need to be more and more integrated so that we take Western Cape, for example. The Western Cape's literally run out of water. You saw what happened in the drought, but 92% of their sewage effluent, they just chuck in the sea. And that water could be come back, reused in the area, but then everyone in the Western Cape water supply scheme needs to pay for it, not just the people who are using the direct water. And to do that, you need a completely integrated system from source to tap. Okay, I'll finish that.
Thank you very much. Various approaches are being suggested. Acknowledgement of what would have existed pre-1994 and before, particularly in the far-flung areas where our communities would have dealt with sustainability and providing themselves with groundwater. DWS is talking about reforms. Now, Dr. Lisiba, based on the suggestions that are on the table, you are a councillor sitting as part of a cohort currently in leadership. What do you think must happen? Where do you see us incorporating the reforms that are suggested by the Department of Water and Sanitation, including other areas that would have been suggested by panel members, in moving forward as a councillor that practically sees and faces the reality on a daily basis? Come back to us, indicate and talk to us about those reflections. Dr. Lisiba?
No, thank you. Am I audible? Can I have the mic on? Thank you. No, thanks, Chair. Chairperson, without necessarily regurgitating what Lubabalo presented in setting the scene, I think it would be important that we summarize the challenges that we are faced with as municipalities as a context before one can respond to your specific question. And we had a national working group where we discussed this challenge. And I would like to just quickly summarize them. Number one, population growth and urbanization, placing immense pressure on existing infrastructure. Two, the issue of water scarcity, where the demand often exceeds the available supply. Three, the issue of aging infrastructure. We've got municipalities where the infrastructure is over 100 years old, and there's a need for repair and replacement. Yet we know very well, it's well documented, that the amount that is spent on repairs and maintenance is so limited, if not dwindling. Number four is issue of informal settlements. We are here in the city of Ekurhuleni, which is regarded as the headquarters of informal settlement. From 199 informal settlement, we are talking over 200 now. Number 5 is the issue of water pollution, especially in rivers and dams. Point in case again, the Val Dam, we've read about the stories, and recently the Cradle of Humankind, one of our tourist attraction. Number 6, they've touched on it, is the issue of financial sustainability. We're still struggling to collect sufficient revenue from consumers, which in turn affects our ability to pay our creditors. Point in case again, the Rand water. Climate change, touched on that. It's either drought or floods, nothing in between. Number 8 is the issue of regulatory framework compliance. The cost of compliance against the backdrop of service delivery priorities. Obviously, service delivery will have to take preference, so compliance will have to take a back seat. And finally, Phil spoke about the issue of skills and capacity. Developing of skills, but also retaining that. And I had to mention this, Chair, so that you understand the problems that we are faced with as municipalities. And also to acknowledge that indeed we need help, and we need help very, very quickly. And any suggested help is welcomed. However, we have to do that with great circumspect, Chair. You know, I've had two contrasting views from my fellow panelists. One indicating that Section 152 says, local municipality must, or a municipality must ensure provision. And a counter view that talks about shall provide or shall ensure that services are provided. For me, it doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there, whether it shall or ensure, because you've got to look at that within the context of Section 11 of Municipal Systems Act, Chairperson, which says a council is the executive and legislative authority of a municipality. It says all power vests with the municipality. It doesn't matter. And even from a practical point of view, when there are problems with service delivery, people don't know about province, communities don't know about national, they know about their municipality, and they will go to the municipality. So whilst we are thinking of all these solutions, we've got to think of them within that context. And also within the context that when the spheres of government were established, the overarching responsibility is that national will provide policy, regulation, and national strategies. Provinces will look at managing and monitoring of the implementation. But the local government is the coalface of the municipality, where provision and access to basic services must be ensured in a sustainable and an equitable manner. Service delivery by its own nature, colleagues, it's interconnected. You will never, and we should move away from a situation where we want to isolate one part of service delivery against the rest. Cross-subsidization is the order of the day in a municipality. That's why even when we do issue of debt collection and revenue enhancement, whilst it could be in other areas, but we would make use of electricity to be able to encourage the residents to pay. So, and I think what exacerbates, coming back then to the question long-windedly that you asked, Chairperson, to say the reforms that are being introduced, how do we view them? The reforms are welcomed. And I think the reform, we shouldn't be defensive because indeed we need help. However, the reforms would have to be implemented within the context of a collective. It cannot be a situation where we're looking for an answer from some of us, because the answer must come from all of us. And hence, we all share responsibilities in all the different spheres of government. So, and I think what exacerbates the problem is the absence of a min-mac within the water sector. While I was still in transport, I know where there's a min-mac, a minister in MECs, provinces, national, SALGA, we sit around the table, we look for solutions to our problem. And perhaps that should be our first step, Chair, to say we welcome the proposed intervention, but the intervention has to be discussed within the context of a collective, whereby there would be a min-mac
for example, of technical people, where our technical people will come together and discuss, what would work and what would not work, right? Because a top-down approach will not work. There are a number of things that I know will not work, Chair, and we've seen it previously. One size fits all, as my co-panelist indicated, will not work. Top-down approach will not work. Looking for answers from some of us will not work. What will work is all of us coming together at the political level and at the technical level and look at all the challenges and come up with proposed implementation. That will make sure that indeed service delivery on the ground is provided in a sustainable and effective manner. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for the input. Very clear and precise. Before I can go back to our panelists with one or two questions, I'm going to call for hands from the floor. Don't take a lot of time. Ixesha likho. I'm trying to accommodate that we must all participate because this is our session. The first hand I see, each speaker will have 1 minute and 30 seconds. The first hand I see is in the front. The second hand I see is somebody with a paper at the back, in the middle. Yes. The third hand is the young man here in the front with your jacket. That's 3. Let me take usisi ngaphaya skipper esi black and white. Wena mama bheke emuva. Yes. That's 4. And the last hand for now is the lady with an empty bottle. I think it's an empty bottle. Thank you very much. Baba, ungokuqala.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Rismati Eric Makondo.
Not only questions, you can also provide solutions.
Okay.
Propose suggestions. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Eric Rismati Makondo from Greater Guyana. I'm the chairperson of MPEC. I've got a lot, but it said 1 minute. I will try to be shorter. One is maintenance. The turnaround strategies in our municipality, it makes our infrastructure to be worse. Because, for example, here is the water plant or balls or whatever. It takes time to maintain. And then what next? Tomorrow is not working. Go back to 0. Support from the national. How often do national go down to do monitoring? Because you give the funds and you don't monitor what is happening with the funds. I think when we do consultation, we consult young people. We leave the councillors in the rural areas and the stakeholders, and we discuss on our own. One panelist talked about all of us together. Personally, I think the way to start is go to the villages, because it's not one size fits all. In these villages, there's a water purification plant, there's boreholes, there's everything. It's not maintained. And in the other village, there's nothing. Lastly, I think water authority should be given to the municipality, because they are giving service every day, and are the one who are taking all this burden. And then various approaches by who, when, and how, because we want to approach all these challenges, but we are leaving the people who are suffering. We are leaving the councillors who knows their community.
2 seconds.
For example, if we can have a survey where each and every councillors or municipalities give their views and you combine them, that would be better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Baba.
Thank you, Chair. In Kenneth Mkondo from City of Mbombela. Few things. One, the gentleman from DWS, ukhulume reforms. I want to check whether kulama reforms ikhuluma ngale issue yema water rights now, because in most of the time this thing about water rights is troublesome to municipalities. We find that they are telling you what's our own Mr. Private sector and what. And then you can't access that water. So that man. The other matter is water and sanitation does not do much. Remember, there is no word in national. Their planning must talk to municipalities. Whether the issue of dams and the issue of bulk reticulation and other things, they must give us an informed plan when they pops in office, so that we'll know exactly what will be their role in municipalities in their term of office, rather than coming and being dilly-dallying around. They must give us a proper plan in that one. The other thing is that, because COVID, they were doing fine in the issue man. The water and sanitation national in assisting municipalities. Why after that they are no longer assisting us? I want to check that. The last one is the seawater. Are we saying we don't have a plan either to make sure that before water goes to the sea and being salty, or making sure that the salty water can be turning around so that people can use it or consume it? It's one thing that I want to check. The of a project manager and a consultant. And he said that it is not proper that you will allow an engineer to be a project manager. Can he define that correctly so that we can understand it?
Thank you very much. Sinobaba la phambili. Ngiyabonga baba.
Oh, I thought I was a young man.
Oh, young man.
No. Thank you very much. I think we really appreciated the inputs from all the panelists, but we just wanted to raise one or two.
Name?
My name is Zugisa Gan. This mic. My name is Zugisa Gana. I'm an MMC for Finance from KSD Municipality. I was invited as a panelist from the Municipal Finance and Fiscal Policy Working Group.
Okay.
Chair, there are a few issues that I will talk to. Firstly, I think we need to include in the discussion the urban versus rural demand and supply for water. Because I think at times the discussion at times excludes those things. Sometimes we base this on assumptions, really. And tailored to this discussion is the urban and rural incomes, household incomes study. Because the basic assumption which we did in the implementation of the recommendations of the white paper was to then assume that anyone who is on rural area is indigent and therefore must get free basic services. And that assumption has not helped us, because there is a tool to determine indigency that we are not using appropriately. We complain that the equitable share formula is not assisting us, and yet ourselves we're not assisting the formula to have the correct data to input on the exact number of households that actually qualify for free basic services, which would include free basic water and sanitation. Hey, this mic.
20 seconds left.
Yes. Then the two issues is that we need a reform on the profit-driven conceptualization around tariff setting. The second one is that also I want to vehemently disagree with, there's a gentleman here who says asset management is for engineers. I think we're talking about two different things. Asset management and operational management are two issues. But I would have loved to come back on that point on asset management. I think we might be, he might have gotten the wrong end of the stick on that particular point.
Thank you very much. I understood Mr. Field to be saying in some municipalities, The role is much more focused by people of finance because when they consolidate asset management for purposes of their annual financial statements, that's when you get an expression of what are the assets, what are the value of the assets, what needs to be disposed. Instead of it being located in the appropriate unit of technical services as a key component that can actually up the asset base of a municipality and thereby informing planning in the municipality. That's what I understood, but if it's wrong, I think he'll clarify. Now, we will proceed to Umama. Yes. Rea Lebogamme?
Thank you very much, Facilitator. I'm Noloison Tsaluba, the Chief Whip from Intsikayeto Municipality in the Eastern Cape. Let me appreciate all the inputs that we have received from all the panelists. My question is in respect to the water licenses, the water services licenses. Are the municipalities to be subjected to any form of assessment before being provided with the licenses? And we fully understand that initially the municipality performed the provision of water services very well, but that function was taken from the local municipalities, even though they were performing very well. Then, when it comes to the water services that should be given to water boards, I think it is quite clear that they have failed. So that function should not be given to the water boards. Rather, it should be given to the district municipalities or the local municipalities. Thank you very much. Facilitate.
Thank you very much, and thanks for adhering to your 2 minutes. Umama emuva ubephakamise yes, it's your time. If the mic can go at the back.
No, thank you very much, Chair. And let me appreciate the presentations. My name is Liam Mabuza, the Executive Mayor of Emalahleni Local Municipality in Mpumalanga. Chair, I wanted to pose few questions with regard to the DG of DWS. I could see that he is proud in making statements that is taking rights from Sidibeng and following to Bloom water scheme in terms of non-compliance. Chair, I just want to be controversial. Who is building water? Where do we get water? Is there a service provider that constructs water? Because it is a natural resource, first. Secondly, it is a basic right. Thirdly, we have observed the exorbitant pricing, both of DWS as well as water schemes, where municipalities are hamstrung in terms of the payment of water schemes, which, Chair, this commission, we must call on for the reform as the DG is presenting, including the pricing of water that goes to the municipalities. Because municipalities are unable to pay for these services on the basis of the levy that is too high, and other municipalities are unable completely to pay these water services. IMISA, as an entity of COGTA, they are saying we're lacking capacity, but I don't hear whether they are in the position to provide such a capacity where the municipality is failing in terms of these services, in terms of water provision, of the skills that they are talking about. Why MISA is not the center of a capacity building and also provide those capacities to local municipalities where there is no such a capacity.
20 seconds.
Indeed, Chair, as I'm closing, the issue of climate change, the issue of infrastructure aging, it's one of the predicaments where municipalities are unable to cope with a functional, proper water provision to the communities on the basis that we don't hear DWS on the intervention on the issues of climate change while we have issues of infrastructure that is aging and also their budget. Maybe it is due. It is true, Chair, that there should be a drastic reform that includes the issuing of water licenses. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I will have to suppress a lot of other members that may have issues to raise. But the platform continues in our various provinces through the chairpersons of water and sanitation committees in SALGA. When they come to the national meeting, they must bring all of the inputs and the positions that we're aspiring for. Now, panel members, we'll start with, I'm going to give you, I'm going to be not a one-size-fits-all. Misa, you've got 2 minutes. Don't respond to anything that you feel is an input. But there is a direct question on what capacity do you have to assist municipalities. 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheikh. Can you hear me? Quickly, the issue of maintenance, I just wanted to talk about the issue of maintenance. We are also encouraging municipalities to use MIG for maintenance of their infrastructure. There's a 10% provision in the MIG DORA grant conditions for asset management maintenance. So it's very, very important to take note of that. The issue of project management, it is very, let me say, engineers are being made general managers for everything. You go to a wastewater treatment plant, there is chemical processes that happen. A civil engineer is not taught to deal with the processes. That's a chemical engineer's position. The plant is smelling. The civil engineer will come and just stand and look at it. But if you have someone who understands the processes, like chemical processes, then we'll be able to give you answers. We are bringing in a lot of technology in the systems. And the technology, you find that it's making redundant the experience of a lot of people. I experienced it in the city of Cape Town, where I introduced those water management devices. And then when we introduced those water management devices, the plumbers could not do anything about it. We had to get expertise to try and deal with that. So the changes of technology and the movement of time is actually making some of the experiences redundant. So project management, it's a specialized field. You're dealing with risk management, you're dealing with integration, you're dealing with stakeholder management, you're dealing with all sorts of things. And it's not the engineers when they are taught at university. Yes, I think now they are bringing in the project management function, but they are not specialists like that. You have BSc construction managers who are taught how to plan, how to manage a project. They don't come in the municipality because the job descriptions are not talking to that. All right, so I just wanted to bring that, and also the issue of asset management. That's the debate, that's the issue that we're trying to push to municipalities. To say asset management is not about finance. Finance, they deal with the asset register to account to the AG and make sure that it's complying with the GRAP 17. Asset management is about planning infrastructure, Asset management is about looking at the condition assessment of infrastructure. It's about risk assessment of infrastructure. It's about the master planning of infrastructure. So it's a technical issue rather than more of a finance issue. Yes, you need the integration of these disciplines, but technical people should be in the forefront. I think that's the last one was the issue of skills. What can we do as MISA? As MISA, we are trying our best to support municipalities in the project initiations, project designs, project planning, project implementation. And we are even intervening in certain situations where we actually do the contracts management on behalf of the municipalities. We are doing that. But again, the numbers are not sufficient.
1 second.
1 engineer per district. So you can see there's a capacity issue as well. That's why I was talking about the issue of the gig human capital. We must think about this gig human capital. Let's think about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. We will now take Mr. Hilton Richard. Your 2 minutes parting short on any matter that you'd have heard that you wish to provide your advice on.
Okay. There was one question on desalination, and I think what we're saying, and I'll talk about City of Cape Town, it's far cheaper to take your sewage effluent and clean it up to potable water standard, as Windhoek has been doing, I think, for the past 45 years. If you live in Windhoek, you drink recycled sewage. Perfectly safe, no problems. And it's cheaper than desalinating seawater, which is what everybody suggests. Now, if you've got a shortage of money, obviously reuse of effluent is far cheaper, and we do reuse effluent. City of Cape Town's got recycling, Nelson Mandela Bay has got recycling. Up at Belito, the Fraser Works, they actually do direct recycling into potable. But it's a way of increasing our, the amount of water available, particularly on the coastal cities where we are throwing water, which if you're in Nelson Mandela Bay, and the water which is coming from Harip Dam, in other words, you bring water all the way from Harip Dam, 300 kilometers, use it once, throw it into the sea, where it would probably be better to either to do desalination of seawater, at least reuse it once, twice, 3 times before discharging it. Then the other thing is on costs. We've got to appreciate, because the executive mayor from Emerald Lane is saying it costs too much. You're sitting in the Birchwood Hotel. This hotel is using water from Lesotho. Okay, I can speak on authority on that because TCDA provides the funding which builds the dams in Lesotho. That costs money. That water then comes down, the department manages, it comes all the way down to the Vaal Dam. From there, it's going to be taken by Rand Water, and it's going to be pumped. It's going to be pumped 360 meters up in the air to reach Joburg. Pumping costs money. Eskom needs to be paid. It gets into the municipality. You lose 40%, 50%. If you're losing 50%, Rand Water is delivering at about 11 Rand a cubic meter. It means before you even put your own costs on from your losses, you've got to charge your paying customers 20 Rand a cubic meter. So we're going to look at it holistically. And the other thing is, and you can see it in what we are facing at the moment, all of us. It's been experienced in Ekurhuleni, it's been experienced in Tshwane, it's been experienced in Joburg. We are getting frequent outages from Rand Water and in Joburg from Joburg itself because not enough money is going in to maintain that system. And if we don't put enough money in to maintain the system, it will break. It's not maybe, perhaps, it will. And in the center of Joburg,
10 seconds.
Okay, the Yeovil pump station went out. Feeds the Hillbrow Berea area. 20,000 people were without water for 9 days. And if that is what you accept, then let the population know. But if you don't accept it, and we need to provide services, we've got to pay sufficient money so that we have sustainable water services.
Thank you very much. We will thank you very much for your parting shot. DG, we will now take, you have a right. That thing is there, or did you remove it?
Can't hear you? Okay.
That speaking thing is there.
Okay.
They did not give you the speaking thing. Oh. But the DG prefers to come stand here.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you loud and
Okay.
clear.
There was one point saying that we don't monitor our funds when we transfer them to municipalities. We do monitor them very closely. There was a point about the financial sustainability of water services at municipal level and suggestions about the review of the equitable share formula. We strongly support the review, a need for the review of the local government fiscal framework. When the local government fiscal framework was designed, it was assumed that municipalities would be able to make revenues from the sale of water and to make a surplus from the sale of water. But in our analysis, most municipalities are not making any surplus on the sale of water. In fact, many municipalities are running the water function at a loss. It's similar for the electricity function. Municipalities are no longer, in general, making a surplus on the sale of electricity. So we have been strongly recommending to National Treasury that the review of the local government fiscal framework be reviewed. The challenge is that the whole national fiscal framework is based on the idea that water and sanitation are self-financing. If that's going to change, money would have to be found from somewhere else to fund the water and sanitation function, either by raising taxes or by the government borrowing more money. And at the moment, neither of those things are feasible. So we really have no alternative but to make the system work as a country where water and sanitation are self-financing. And what that means is that we need to make sure that tariffs are such that they're reflective of efficient costs. We need to improve billing and revenue collection, and we need to really focus on reducing non-revenue water, as Richard was saying. There was a question about the operating license system that we want to introduce with the amendments to the Water Services Act. It's an operating license that we're talking about. It's different to the water use licenses that are already in place in terms of the National Water Act. And yes, municipalities will be assessed in order to obtain an operating license. There was also a comment about who should have the water service provider function in the municipality. The Water Services Act, as it stands now, says that a water services authority can approve any legal entity, which can be the municipality itself, a municipal entity, or another municipality, or a CBO, or an NGO, or a private company, or a water board, to function as a WSP in a municipality. We don't have any preference for who the Water Services Authority appoints as a WSP. We're not motivating for water services authorities to appoint any particular WSP, be it the municipality itself or a water board. Our main concern as the regulator is that whoever is appointed as the WSP by the WSA must provide water and sanitation services to national norms and minimum norms and standards. And that's our concern. And that's what the reform is aimed at achieving. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DG. I'm now going to call upon the Dr. Lisiba, Councillor Lisiba from the committee.
No, thanks. Mike, please. No, Chairperson, thank you very much. Chair, our challenges are well documented. In fact, we live them every day. There's no surprises there. What is required is a solution, and a solution like yesterday. So to that end, Chairperson, if you indulge me, I wish to make the following proposal. That we establish an equivalent of a MINMAC for water. This must be at a technical and a political level. And this, Chair, that's the end of the recommendation. The recommendation will allow us to continue these discussions that we are having here in a meaningful way and will assist us in addressing these issues. But not only does one wish to recommend that, we want to take it a step further and sponsor some of the terms of reference where this collective, should be looking into. And by the way, Chair, I'm speaking on behalf of a working group of National SALGA, because the reform doc was presented, and what I'm presenting to you is not my views, but the views of the collective. To say the reform in its current state is problematic and will create a lot of problems for us. It's a welcomed intervention, but however, the approach and the implementation have to be carefully thought through. Here are some of the issues that we believe this MINMAC should discuss both at a technical and at political level. Number one, what are the causes of poor performance and what should be the suggested remedies? As we've indicated, it's not one size fits all. Some are doing well, some are not, some are in the middle. Number two, the reasonability of these planned reforms that the DWS is proposing, which in our view we've indicated. We see them as a bit problematic, but let's engage and share with yourself why we feel that way. The support that is provided to local government by national and provincial government and how we should improve it. Support is good, Chair, but the supporter should not necessarily dictate the kind of support that is provided. It's important. I would wish to borrow from the taxi industry when the formalization was brought into place. And they said, nothing for us without us. So it is important that we engage local government. Number four, what will be appropriate incentives and disincentives, as Lubabalo has indicated, to improve the status quo? A carrot and a stick approach so that we encourage those that are doing very well. How do we, as number five, constructively handle? One of the speakers made mention of district municipalities versus local municipality. The roles and responsibilities in terms of municipal water services provision. Then how do we constructively handle this between these different forms of government? And lastly, Chairperson, what does it look like for local government to hold the other spheres accountable? Okay, because we know, we are spheres and we emphasize that. This is not levels of government, it's spheres of government. And we must hold each other accountable. But it goes up and it comes down as well. And this, Chair, if we agree and we approve this recommendation, I can tell you all the things that are raised here will find expression there, and we are going to find a workable solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to request all the participants to give a very sounding round of applause to all our panel members. Okay, I'm going to teach you a round of applause of Water and Sanitation Committee. Undijongi. Siayake, you do two and then one. Okay, let's go. Close. Pasela? Pasela again? Thank you very much. This is the clap for the Water and Sanitation Committee. Now, let me appreciate all the inputs. I have heard, as the chairperson, all of the inputs that were made. Mr. Richard, we agree with you. It can't be a one-size-fits-all. You are reminding us of going back in the far-flung areas. Don't try and change something that does not need to be changed. Improve on it and capacitate and capitalize on it. DG, the members sitting here are saying, let's agree with the reforms. But the methodology and the approach should seek to address permanently issues that impact the sector. We know that we've inherited some of these challenges, but we only have the last chance to do what is right, because the communities are impatient. Yesterday, when we were dealing with the electricity and energy sector, we were battling to come to terms with how infrastructure is being destroyed by our people. And security for infrastructure is key. But we also acknowledged, if you don't take the communities along and involve them in any work that we are doing as government, they are likely to destroy it because they don't know where is it coming from. Now, water as a sector has got potential to unlock many opportunities. It has got potential to unlock economic potentials of municipalities, both at local and at a district level. And the only way of understanding the magnitude of the quality and the quantity required is really to develop master plans that speaks to what municipalities and districts are talking about. So that you don't reform now and 5-10 years down the line, we've got no sense of what we are talking about. And we still have to come back. Projections, planning, walking along, and the member is saying, let's do that in a min-mac, in a structured way, so that all of us agree on what we ought to be doing. All the points that MISA has raised, data management, harnessing the water sources, and working, ensuring that we have all of the issues that we want, structured finance that needs to happen. We may not conclude on them now, but it's matters that all of the members have raised, that which we are going to build on as a committee as we work towards finding lasting solutions to the challenges that are facing our people. Dr. Lisiba, you've summarized it well. Resource mobilization and resource utilization, financial sustainability of the sector, the aging infrastructure, water pollutions in some of the areas, the impact of climate change, and how best do we harness the rivers and the streams to give us more water. South Africa is not running out of water. It is how we utilize that which we have and how we harness that which we have that can give us a leverage to the rest of society and the rest of SADC and the rest of Africa. Because once we integrate and we deal with that, and we appreciate the work that the minister is doing at DG in harnessing the rest of the water sources so that we can speak in one voice and be able to work together. The issues of cost of compliance and SALGA, please assist government in developing a tool to measure their Section 54 support to municipalities. How do we measure them? They don't measure themselves. But somehow we ought to be able to say, before you take a drastic measure of taking a function and a power, let's first measure whether you've done what you are supposed to do to assist this municipality. And if we can do that and have that measure, we will be able to have our ducks in order. With those words, to Zukisa Sukvilebut, we've heard you very well. Urban versus rural, demand and supply issues. The study that we ought to be doing on the resource that is available, including in the most rural areas, so that the cost can be indicated. Issues of tariffs that members have raised. Sinsaluba, Sikuve kakhle, your point is that don't go the route of the boards. Get to district municipalities, give them the authority. And maybe what we have not done, DG, is to inform the reform. Is there an evidence-based report of the assessment that we have done, even to the extent of capacities that exist at the level of the boards? Because we may be utilizing the platform to want to resource boards, that which eventually will be like Sidibeng and Bloemwater? Is there an evidence report that says, give it to the boards because municipalities have failed? So that exercise belongs in MINMEC, where discussions can happen. Sislia, sikuve kahle. Colleague, MPEC Chairperson Limpopo, MINMEC will address communication, sharing of information, and consultation with councillors. Because half the time, when technocrats sit and discuss, they take decisions on our behalf. We're nowhere to be involved. And once we come, the train has moved a long way. And now we want to begin to argue, and there's no time. So we've had all of the inputs of the members that they've made. We will, one way or the other, include them. If we can put this thing back on the laptop on the screen. But Chair, Dr. Lisiba, you've summarized it. When you members were talking, I was elevating some of the recommendations. I've included them here. Yes. If I go up, other
side.
Or the other side.
Yeah.
But there are 5 recommendations, and I think that you've summed them up well. I tried to do the notes as members were talking. I just needed to put them on the screen. It's similarly, I don't know why we similarly think alike. Yes, it's SALGA, ne? I think we're too much involved in the sector. I wrote them here, Nance. So you can put up this like, yes. Now, okay, you see, now the entire team of SALGA, thank you very much. Thank you very much, but we'll refine them. Explore alternative water service delivery mechanisms in a differentiated manner. Introduce appropriate incentives and disincentives for persistent poor performance. Accountability and consequence management must not be limited to local government. Only the system works when everyone accounts, and this should also have tools to measure your province and national Section 54 support that they are supposed to be indicating. Establishment of a MINMEC for both political and technical level, which will strengthen communication, consultation, and improving relations in general across all spheres of government. Consider and work out the power and the functions of local and district municipalities alongside the issues of reforms for the water boards, so that you know and you clarify everything to be in collaboration instead of competing. We will collaborate. There's nobody who's going to be fighting. Now that collaboration is what is going to take us forward. The rest of the other issues we are imploring on all municipalities. Let's take issues of water and sanitation as a priority. Utilize the grants that we get to spend it on the areas to which we requested the grants. If there's any municipality that does not spend MIC or WISIG, sizawudibana xa sizayo kuni. With those few words, let me appreciate all of the inputs. Panel members, you were super in a very short time. These discussions will continue behind the scenes. To all of the participants and those that did not have space to speak, you can write your inputs and drop me a WhatsApp, email it, give it to the chairperson so that we proceed with the process. To our SALGA team, led by Madam Jean, thank you very much. To the technical team there that made it possible with a very good sound, we appreciate it. Can we then adjourn, go and have lunch so that we come back? Thank you very much. Before we go, SALGA has a token of appreciation to all our panel members. And I would like to say, as a token of appreciation, ngesixhosa sithi ningadinwa ka Setswana ra re le se ke be la fela pelo ka Sekgowa re re baya danki ka English ra re we sincerely appreciate. We are running out of words to say. Ka Sevenda ra re ndolibuwa kutsitonga karang. Yes, and all of the and all. Zonke siyazifaka phakathi. A round of applause. Thank you to all of us. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you to the chairperson. Thanks, madam. We are now adjourned. We can join and go and eat lunch in various areas.